Once upon a time there was a father, and he had 3 daughters. The father had to go off for a trip for work, and he asked each daughter what he would like. The eldest daughter wanted him to bring back the most beautiful gown he could find. The next eldest daughter wanted a beautiful hat with a nice warm shawl. The youngest daughter, whom they called Cinderella, wanted a little bird. A bird? said the eldest daughter. Whatever will you do with a bird? When the father returned, he brought back everything the daughters had wished for. Oh, they were so excited. The father went to the kingdom, for that's where he worked. And the king told the father that he was going to host 3 balls. 1, 2, 3, right in a row. And he was so excited that the king was, so he said, invite your daughters. So that night when the king went home, oh, the 2 eldest daughters were so excited to go to this ball, they just couldn't wait. The eldest one was going to wear her beautiful dress, and the next eldest with her beautiful shawl and her gorgeous pink beautiful hat. But Cinderella wasn't really too excited. She didn't really care about the ball. So the next day when the ball finally came, the eldest daughter slipped on her dress, and the next eldest put on her beautiful pink hat and her gorgeous shawl. And they said, Cinderella, are you sure you don't want to go? Cinderella was sure. No, you guys go. I'll just stay here. Leave her alone, said the father. Let's just go. So off they went to the ball. Cinderella secretly wanted to go, so she asked her bird, Little bird, make me more beautiful than I am. And snap! She was dressed in this beautiful diamond gown. It went all the way to the floor. Oh, it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. The little bird also reminded her to take 2 pursefuls of money. She couldn't quite figure out what the money was for. When Cinderella entered the ball, all eyes went on her. She was so gorgeous. And the king asked her to dance. Her and the king danced and danced. When the king got tired, she stood next to her sisters. She unhooked her bracelet and let it fall on the ground. The eldest sister picked it up. You've dropped this, she said to the sister. The eldest sister said to Cinderella, but she didn't know it was Cinderella. You've dropped this. That's okay. You keep it, Cinderella said. Oh, she was so excited. She got this beautiful bracelet. And Cinderella knew she had to get going, so she hopped in her carriage, but the king had told his servants to follow Cinderella. Cinderella suddenly knew what the money was for. So when she hopped in her carriage and she could see all those servants following her, she let out the money from the windows. The servants were so greedy, they just snatched it right up. The next day, when the king asked who it was, the servant said, We don't know. She left so much money, that's all we collected. Ugh, the king was so mad at those silly servants. So, it was the next day, and here was the next ball. Oh, and the sister found another beautiful dress, and she got to wear the youngest sister's hat. And the younger sister found another gorgeous dress. But it was a little shorter, it hit right to her knees. Oh, and they both looked so beautiful. Cinderella, do you want to go? No, she said. Something was definitely wrong with her today. Leave her alone, said the father. Let's just go. So, off to the ball they went. Cinderella said to the bird again, Bird, make me more beautiful than I am. This time the bird dressed her in an emerald dress. Oh, and it had sequins and sparkles. Oh, and that green lit off her beautiful green eyes. Oh, she was ravishing. When she got to the ball, the king recognized her immediately, and they danced and danced and danced again. When the king got tired, she went off to the side and stood next to her next youngest sister, her next oldest sister. And she secretly unhooked her necklace and let it down. And the sister picked it up and said, "You dropped this." She said, "You keep it for yourself." Oh, the sister couldn't believe this beautiful emerald necklace that she dropped, and that she got to keep it. She was so excited. Now Cinderella knew she better get going. Oh, and the bird left her with sand this time, because the bird knew that the servants would follow her, and Cinderella also knew that. So Cinderella hopped in her carriage, and as soon as the servants started following her, she let out the sand. And it got in the servants' eyes, and they couldn't see anything. They were blinded. So Cinderella made it home safe one more time. Now, the third day, the third ball. Oh, and the sisters just couldn't believe they got to go to one more ball. They got all gussied up, and the father said, "Let's go to the ball. Cinderella, do you want to come?" "No, I'm fine here," she said. So, the father and the two eldest sisters went to the ball, and for the last time, Cinderella asked the little bird, "Bird, make me more beautiful than I am." And the bird did. Oh, and this time she was in a gown of all the colors of heaven. Oh, and it was so beautiful, and the light from the moon and the sun were in her eyes. Oh, it was the most beautiful dress of all the ones she tried on that the bird had made for her. So, when she got to the ball, she danced with the king again. When he got tired, she stood by her father this time. She let out a snuff box full of money. And the father picked it up and said, "You dropped this." "You dropped this," is really what he said. Cinderella said, "You keep it." So, he kept it, and he opened it, and he couldn't believe all the money that was in there. So he hid it, he put it in his pocket. Now, this time the servants were a little smarter, and they got horses to follow her carriage. So she hopped in the carriage, and she tried to get home as fast as she could, but the horses figured out, the horses and the servants were fast, and they figured out where she lived. So, when the servants returned to the king said, Did you find her?" "Yeah, we know where she lives," said the servants. The king said, when the sun rises, we'll go and ask the father about those daughters." So the next day came, and the servants knocked on the door. "A carriage," said the father, "from the kingdom?" The servant said, "Hey, you got any daughters?" "Why, yes, I have 2. So, oh, most important part, I totally forgot to tell you, when Cinderella was escaping from her carriage, she accidentally left one of her shoes. Oh, and she thought the bird was just going to be so mad because she left her shoe. So when the servants knocked on the king's door, they had the shoe that Cinderella had left. And the 2 daughters came down, and they tried it on, and it was too little for both of them, for they were rather large daughters. And the servant said, "You got any more daughters?" And the king said, "Oh, yes, but she is so homely. Oh, she is not beautiful." And the servant said, "We don't care. We just want to see if the shoe fits." So and Cinderella said to the bird, "Make me more beautiful than I am," for she could hear them downstairs. And the bird changed her into that beautiful gown she was wearing last night. And when she came down the stairs, they could hear her coming, and the father thought, "Oh, she is such a disgrace. She is so ugly." But when she came down those stairs, all eyes were on her. They couldn't believe the transformation. When she sat down to see if the shoe fit, it was a match. It was perfect. And the king said, "Will you be my wife?" Oh, she couldn't be more thrilled. So, when Cinderella and the king got married, she invited her father and her 2 eldest daughters to come live in this beautiful, humongous castle. And they lived happily ever after.